Hi there, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video in the Rigoletto series. Now this series has been a little bit strange because I did the first one and then I did all those back to basics videos based on this radio, but this radio needs to be finished. And in this video I'm going to handle the entire chassis restoration, which admittedly involves more cleaning than anything else. So if you haven't had your dose of cleaning for this month, stick around. Maybe there are a few techniques here that that you might learn from or might enjoy watching. One of the things that I show here are some of the techniques that I use, some of the materials I use. I use an airbrush compressor to remove the dirt. I always enjoy that. It's always a thrill to see this thing going from a dirty chassis to a sparkling, perfectly cleaned up chassis. Now, this one is not in bad shape. This one is actually in very, very good shape, and I hadn't done any cleaning till now because I wanted to do this all at the end. So if you enjoy this sort of thing, stick around, enjoy the video. But before I carry on, I just want to thank the sponsors of the video, PCBWay. You'll find them at PCBWay.com. They're the people I go to for all my PCBs that I use on my channel, and the projects that I design I make available on the share section of the PCBWay website, where you can just go there and order boards directly. Right now, they've started their PCBWay 10th anniversary tour, which allows you to enjoy a personalized experience in this interactive section of the website. It'll give you brief history of your own experience with them. It'll make available some coupons for you to use on the website and a lot of other goodies that will make your experience even more enjoyable. They've also got a charity badge sale if you want to participate. And of course, you'll also be eligible for a lucky draw. So whether you just want to order PCBs or any one of the large number of other services they provide, visit PCBWay.com, participate in the 10th anniversary tour, and I'm sure you'll find something for your needs. If you've been following this series, you've probably seen more of this radio than you'd like to. One thing you haven't seen me do is clean just about anything. Now, I did that on purpose because I wanted to do everything else that I wanted to explain to you first. I wanted to leave all the cabinet and chassis restoration to the end, which is what I'm doing now. So I did no cleaning. Now that's not normal for me because as I go along and do each section, I normally clean that part of the radio. Sometimes you get to the end and the whole chassis is cleaned up, which is great. I don't particularly like this phase of the work, but it has to be done. It's probably one of the most important parts of the job, as long as you've got the thing working, obviously. But this is what I'm going to do now. And to do this, I've come up with a few shortcuts because, as I said, I don't particularly like doing this, so I've tried to make the job as easy as possible. This is what I've done. I'm preparing my tools and all my little tricks so that when I start the job, it becomes quite a fluid process, and I probably will get this done in less than an hour. Most of the cleaning on these chassis is actually just dirt and grime, and the best way to do that is to use isopropyl alcohol. This particular one here is not isopropyl, it's ethyl alcohol, but it's 96%. I have started using this because it's cheaper, and at the end, if there's any film left over by the alcohol, I just use isopropyl as a last resort. But that's the alcohol and, of course, brushes. Now, I use these natural hair brushes. These things are fantastic to clean with. I've tried synthetic, they don't work so well. These are great. I've got 3 sizes, so we're ready for that. And I used to then do what most people do, which is I would then soak up the dirt and dry it up with cotton swabs. I used to use so many that one of you actually sent me a whole box full of these things as a gift. Thank you. I still use them, but I found a better solution for now, and that is to use a chopstick, which I have cut open, and I use these makeup removers, just cut them in half, fit them in there. The spring sort of tightens it, and then I can just clean the surface. And the reason I can do that is because most of the dirt will be gone, because the secret weapon is this airbrush compressor. For ages and ages, I wondered if there was a better way to clean the chassis than using just that system. Because when you put alcohol on there and brush the dirt sort of stays down there. So you've got to clean it up with, well, cotton swabs or the chopstick, but it's tedious as hell. Then I thought, well, what if I use an airbrush? Instead of putting paint in there, I put alcohol. And I decided to give it a try, and this is the result. I actually got this offered by, I think it was Banggood. I did a video on this when I received it. I've been using this extensively on all my restorations to do the cleaning. I fill this up with alcohol instead of paint, and then I just start brushing or spraying, okay, we heard you. I just spray the area, brush it with the one of those brushes, and then just keep spraying, and it sort of washes off. It keeps going down. It just washes the dirt off so that when I do go in and just give it a final dry, there's very, very little dirt left. It has worked really, really well for me, and it's saved me endless hours. So that's what I'm going to start doing and showing you some of the intricacies of this process. I'm going to start at the top here because obviously dirt goes down. So I've got the small brush because there's a lot of very fine wires here from the ferrite antenna. You do not want to break those, but I'll keep quiet and show you just a little bit of this. And that, folks, is the first bit done. As you can see, I've been going down because obviously the dirt flows down and you've got to follow it. And I haven't broken any wires, and it looks pretty clean to me, although I probably will still give it another spray at the end with actual isopropyl. There's still a bit of dirt on here. And this is just it. You just keep following the chassis down. Just keep going down. Sort of make sure that you get every little bit underneath the back. Of course, doing this and filming at the same time is horrendous. So I'm going to do a little bit more and come back and tell you if there's anything new to report. Okay, so this whole top section has been cleaned, front and back. All the dirt has been wiped off. Most of it, or a lot of it, has gone down onto the chassis itself. So to do the next stage, because I've got the protruding sections already washed, I'm going to put this on its side. And the idea is that all the dirt will run down onto this paper towel that I've got down here. So the way I've got it now, I can start airbrushing, cleaning the chassis itself. I'll do sort of this way down, and then I'll reverse it, flip it over and do the front section. Everything should run down onto the paper towels. These things get really grummy after a while, but it certainly makes life a lot easier. So all that's been done, and I've gone as far as the second IF transformer. And I've got one little bit left to do on this side of the board. I've found that I can actually use the bigger brush here. Does it quicker. And I change brushes as needed. Need some alcohol. You always need more alcohol. Of course, you can also use this to dry it at the end. Once the alcohol is gone, you can dry the alcohol just with the airbrush. And that's done. Now all I need to do is the transformer, and then I'll flip it around. The chassis is practically done, but we've still got a little bit of tidying up to do. For example, this thing over here, this is the bracket that holds the magic eye behind it. And it had this old tape on here, so I removed that. And I've got this tape. You know that old-fashioned tape that we used to have for wounds, plaster? They still sell this stuff. And this is perfect for this because it's cloth. And I'm going to put it exactly where the other one was. This is what prevents the glass from actually touching the metal. So it's important to have that in place. And it also gives it a very good finish. So we'll put it everywhere where it was before, and then we'll trim it. Okay. And there was another piece over here. So now I'll take the knife and just trim this off. Keep it neat. What I'll do here is I'll give it a line across here. So this one is ready to go on. And there are a couple more of these things you have to put on to make sure that everything stays exactly the way it was before. Okay, so that's in place, but there's one more, actually two more places to put this on. And one of them is down here. And the same on the other side. I think we're done. And this is our chassis. Actually, this is our chassis. It looks a lot better like this. This really gets really grimy. And it's actually quite satisfying seeing so much dirt because you know you removed it. So what am I going to do now? Well, I'm going to add the dial lamps, which I do know are working. So those are in place. And now I think we can just clean the dial glass a little bit. There's not much to clean. And put it back on. All these have been cleaned. But before I do that, there's a bit of lubrication to be done. And this is where you've got to give everything that moves a little bit of oil. Remember, you have just cleaned everything with alcohol. And alcohol does dry everything up. So give everything a bit of lubricant. Actually, that probably doesn't need it. It shouldn't move. But give everything a bit of lubricant so that it all moves smoothly. Don't put too much on or it just becomes like a dust magnet. I'll do that last. It'll get rid of all the squeaks, which is always a good thing. I did a bit of lubricating of this thing here. Let me try and get a drop in there. Yes. You don't want to lubricate where the string is going through. Not a good idea. Okay, that's working. Looks like we're about done. There's one more. And there is one more. I think I missed that one, but there's another one there. All these little pulleys need a bit of oil. And there's one more thing to do, straight after I put the dial glass in. With the dial glass, you've got to be very careful. You see this old tape over here? Your first instinct may be to remove it. My opinion is, or my advice is, do not remove it. Because if you remove it, you're probably going to remove that gold paint from the back. So what I prefer to do is just leave it in place and put new tape over it This is what protects the glass from coming into direct contact with the metal. So just put a new piece of tape over it, or two, and leave the old one in place. I've actually ripped this off and had the entire back, or the entire piece of gold, just completely removed. It doesn't look good. This actually sort of goes round to protect the bottom of the glass. And we've got the other side to do as well. I know that's not perfect, but that's the best you can do. And if you do that, you're protecting yourself against damaging the back. You can see this has already got some marks from the previous tape that was on there. Leave that alone. If you try to remove that, you're going to damage this further. I'm going to put another bit of tape on here because I know that the top clamps onto that. And it looks like we're good. So with all those protections in place and the dial glass has been cleaned very gently, you've got to be very, very careful with this. You can now rest it on there. There we go, that's done. This side will come up and it will clip on there. And the same will happen with the other side, except I removed the other one. And of course, I've forgotten something, haven't I? I forgot this. So I've got to remove that again and put this in the back. This is actually not in bad shape. I can probably clean it. Or I can use... No, I'll probably do another new one. I'll get some paper. And this is that greaseproof paper, the oven paper. I'll probably make a new one and put it in the back before I put the dial glass on. So I've got to take everything off again. Yeah, these things happen. I've run out of this paper, this oven paper. The one I've got is actually too brown, so I'm going to have to run to the supermarket and get some more. But in the meantime, let me show you the final stage that I do on this chassis, just to give it that little final touch. See, this thing has actually got these sockets over here, and these are all brass. Now you can leave it like that, but what I like to do is just use a little brush on the Dremel. Just give it a bit of a shine. I like that. Same applies to these guys down here. You don't have to go crazy, just remind them that they used to shine. And of course, we don't want to leave these guys alone. They want some shine as well. I just think that looks so much better, don't you? One more of my wife's magazines coming into play here. I'm going to reproduce this for the front. This one's already seen better days, and I had to go to the supermarket to get some oven paper, greaseproof paper. We're going to give us some protection over here. So what I'm going to do, I've cut a bit of a length here. I think this one is thicker than this, so I'm going to give it three thicknesses, and we should be good to go. Just let that dry for a while, and it should be ready. And that is done. I had a bit of a problem trying to figure out where these strings went, but there's a little indent at the top and an indent at the bottom, and I think that's how they connect. The spring is on the far right on the back here. So this is fairly taut, not too tight. You don't need it to be too tight. I put a little bit of sticky tape on here which sort of holds that end to the string, so that if for some reason the dial pointer touches the paper, it doesn't pull it. And I think this is the right place for it to be. I'll only know for sure when this is in the cabinet. But that's one more task done. And there is one other thing that I noticed. These dial knobs aren't in bad shape at all. But if you look carefully, you'll see there's quite a bit of tarnishing, especially on that lower rim over there. This is not too bad, but that lower rim definitely looks tarnished. And I figured out that you can remove this. I want to brush this, sort of polish it. And there's a way to remove this. You can actually remove it quite easily. There are little pegs on here that hold that little rim at the bottom. Now the top one doesn't come out. I think it's glued in. So I'll have to polish it in situ. But I think, yeah, these will come out definitely. You just have to find out which way to bend these things without breaking them. Yeah, it's definitely moving. Okay, and now we can polish this quite easily. Let me show you. I'll just use the Dremel with that brush on there. Very low speed, because if this thing hits it the wrong way, it'll bend it. And that's done. Now I'm going to do the top here. You've got to keep this at very low speed because I've got to go very close to the edge then. You don't want to melt or abrade or rub that Bakelite off. So we'll do this very carefully. This gets really hot, so you've got to move it away fast. Okay, right, both of them are done. Now what I'm going to do before I put it in, I'm going to spray it with a little bit of clear lacquer just to protect it from further tarnish, and then I will put them in. Obviously wash this properly and wash it down with alcohol so there's no grease or anything else on there. Spray the top only. I'm going to cover the rest so I don't get lacquer on the actual knob. I don't want it to lose its Bakelite finish, and I'll be able to put these together, and it's just a question of putting it in there and bending those out again. So we're good. Well, these guys now look great. Put them in, bent the backs, they're clipped in, but now what we've got is we've got this little brass ring around here, and that sort of looks different, and in fact one side is a little bit tarnished, so I'm going to remove this. I've loosened that screw there, and this comes out. You don't need to take out that tone pot. You just loosen this here. This slides out the back. This comes out. Gets us a chance to gives us a chance to clean this a little bit better, and we can polish that in situ because this is glued in place. So I'll do that, and then all the brass is going to look the same. You got to get this going the same distance either way, so this thing doesn't show at the top. So we've got to adjust it counterclockwise. No, it's still showing at the top, so I've got to turn a little bit more counterclockwise. Perfect. Also, you may have to raise or drop this a little bit so it doesn't scratch. I'll just do the other side. Okay, we're done. Those two are perfectly aligned with the piano keys. And now I'm going to put the dial glass on. There we go. Now I just tighten these guys on the side. There are these two clamps over here. You push it down and then you just tighten it a bit. Don't overdo it. You don't want to strain the glass at all. Just make sure it stays in place, and that's it. We're done. Put the knobs in. This is the tuning, so there's no way you're going to hide the where the screw is. So you just put it in really any which way. It has these felt rings just to prevent this from scratching the glass or putting much pressure on the glass. That's good. No, I'm going to have to adjust it. I'm going to have to put it at the bottom so that I can hide that hole. Okay. All right. We seem to be done. That's looking good. Everything's in place. Everything's aligned. I am happy. And that, my friends, is the end of the chassis restoration. Now, is there more that we can do? I'm sure there is. If you keep looking, you'll find stuff that you need to clean a bit better, that you need to adjust a little bit, that you need to lubricate a bit more. Sometimes you just have to say, okay, enough, I'm happy, this is done. In terms of chassis, it's in very, very good condition. The metal is all still shining. It's really, really surprisingly good at this stage. So I'm going to leave it like this. I've got quite a bit more to do with the cabinet. In fact, I've got the entire cabinet to do. I'm going to try and fit that into one video, into the next video. I want to put the Bluetooth module in here, and then I will give you a final demonstration. But for now, I am really, really pleased with this. So I hope you've enjoyed this. And if you have, click like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so on Patreon and PayPal. Once again, thanks for watching. Most of all, stay safe.